So this is actually a course that comes from my commercial training curriculum called Nucleus, and it's the 8-week database. Early on in my business, I realized that farming was what I was doing, essentially, and I decided to get really clear on the exact system that I was plugging into my farming. So what I'm going to show you today is the tool that I use to identify and figure out a farm, how I chunk it down in 8 groups, and then the research that I do in those groups, and how I manage those groups, and what it looks like in a year of my business having 8 groups. Sound good?
Oh, yeah.
Anyone in here have a farm that they know is going to be the territory they want to focus on?
Yes.
Would you like to be our guinea pig for today? And when you walk out of here today, you'll have 8 groups.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
So Tanaz, what I'm going to walk you through first. This is an easy process. It just has several steps, right? And sometimes the best thing about a process is that we just need to know our tool to get there, right? So the tool that I use is Prospect Now. It's just prospectnow.com. You can get a 3-day free trial. So you could technically do the exercise I'm going to show you with that free trial and then pull your farm based on that if you didn't want to pay for the membership. Prospect Now I think is about $95 a month. While you're building your database, it is valuable because it will give you phone numbers. The phone numbers for single family homes are better quality than what they have for commercial products, even though they call themselves a commercial tool. I'll show you what's really cool about them. So I started prospectnow.com. And you just start with a guided search. So the start here, up in the top left-hand side right there, you would just start there and say, I'm going to build a list of properties. So Tanaz, let's start your list. You want to find potential sellers, right?
Yes.
Next. In the state of California, Los Angeles County?
Yes.
Perfect. So next. Do you want to break it down by city, radius, area on a map, or a zip code?
Zip code.
Where's your farm at?
It's Westwood, around Google campus.
So we'll go zip code. So what zip codes would you say are most important to us?
90064.
So I'm just going to look there first.
Bless you.
Thank you. I'll go just residential and hit next. There's 7,274 residential properties in that zip code. You have enough. You don't need any more. So you could just focus there, right? In commercial, we learned that you want to get between 2,500 and 3,500 properties. That's an ideal database size for our product type. But our relationships go a little different. The pace of our product goes a little bit different for you guys. So I would say probably like 5,000 to 7,000. You're probably still okay in residential because you're going to have so many, like you can door knock differently than we can. You can arm up these properties and get in front of them a little bit different than a commercial agent can. So I would say if you just focus on 90064, how many total properties?
274.
274 residential properties. Now here's my trick. Why 8 groups? I've had a lot of people ask me this. And the reason I look at my database in 8 groups is because I need that sweet spot of should I call people every month or every 2 months?
Every month.
If I have 8 groups, it means every 8 weeks I'm going through. So every 2 weeks I'll be calling, or I'm sorry, every 2 months I'll be calling, but I could rotate it where the month I'm not calling, I'm door knocking that group, right? So you could play around with this to get pretty in detail. If you're calling more often than that, you may be oversaturating people who aren't ready to do something. So I think 8 weeks gives you that ideal span, and I've been able to build out my marketing calendar to fit that really well. But if, let's say you looked at the 7,274 and you're like, that's insane, I'm not doing all of these in 8 weeks, I'm going to bump it out to 10. Or I want more saturation, I'm going to narrow it down to 6. You could pick whatever number you want. What I like about 8 weeks is that it means I'm going through the totality of my database 6 times in a year. Because I can get through that full 8 weeks 6 full times. And when I put a couple of levels of marketing in that, that means probably 24 times I've gotten through and touched everybody. Or I could do it one more round and go up to the full 33, 36 touch system. You can get pretty detailed with an 8 week, right? So that's why I say 8 groups. We'll do it by 8 today, but you can get pretty flexible with that. Change that number. So you could narrow it down. Let's say you said I wanted fewer homes. I only want to work on the bigger properties. So we're going to narrow it down, nothing smaller than 1,500 square feet. Well, that brought you down to 4,507. And then you could go up from there. Or you said, I don't want to do the big houses. I don't want to do anything over 4,000 square feet. properties, how many beds and baths it is, if they're out-of-state owners, if it's owner-occupied, that's a little more common for residential. You'll see down here shortcuts for finding sellers. They have properties most likely to sell in 12 months. This is just going based on loan data, meaning someone has a loan coming due and data for that debt says they're more likely to sell than someone who doesn't have a loan coming due. There's no like sourcing that they're doing to find motivation from owners. Make sense?
Yeah.
Out-of-state owners, if they own multiple properties, loans coming due, and properties in foreclosure. You can pull by that, but this runs about 10, 15 days behind what a title rep could get you on properties in foreclosure. So if you have your 7,274, you just hit next. So now we're going to call this yours.
Okay.
You don't have to name them, but I name them because it helps me know what searches I pulled up in my account. And then once it's open, here's what it'll do. It's a really cool thing. It takes it a second. It's pulling a lot of information all at once though. So it's going to give me the full database down here at the bottom. See, it'll have this map here.
Yeah.
If I scroll out, yeah, it's got a couple of houses over here that are popping up, but most of it's over here, right? It's like Cheviot Hills, a little pocket. Could you door knock that?
Yeah.
Totally, super doable. What I like about it is that as I go onto the record here, and I can sort this by any of these items that I want, it will tell me the property information. It's single family residence, 4,087 on a 17, almost 18,000 square foot lot built in 1949. It's one single house, 3 bedrooms, 4 baths. He bought in 2016 for $6.5 million. R1 zoning, the assessed value is 6,630, has a pool, and it is not owner occupied, but I bet it is, because it's owned by an LLC. Then you can go to the owner, it'll tell you who the owner is. Let's see if some LLCs this works, some it doesn't. It's pulling a phone number for the LLC based on the mailing address associated with the LLC. So it's probably the office address for whoever owns that LLC. So what I like about Prospect now is that it shortcuts a step of like, where do I find phone numbers? It'll find about 70% of the phone numbers you need. You may need to go a step further to get a real name, if it's an LLC or something like that, but you can use Corporation Wiki. Just drop in the LLC and it'll tell you who's assigned to that, and then you can call this number and ask for that person.
And then what are you gonna say, just, have you thought about selling or?
Yeah, whatever your interest generator is that you're using on the phone, that would be what you call it. You know, my name's Tanaz, I specialize in your neighborhood. I'm reaching out to owners because we have a food drive that's going on right now. Or I'm reaching out because I was just holding an open house in your neighborhood and wanted to share the information with you. Could be whatever it is that you're calling about, right? But you also want the person's name so when you door knock, you know who you're asking for. So you can get phone numbers in here. It'll tell you who owns more than one house. So let's say like I wanted to learn more about this piece. I could go on to history. It has the history of when he bought it in 2016, sold also in 2013, 2010, 2004. Some of these are like changes of ownership, how it was held versus an actual sell. If it's been listed within the last like 2 years, it'll normally be on here. It looks like it was sold, it was on the market for 73 days in 2016. So it'll tell you like what it priced for, and then there are comps in here, but they're so-so. I found the comp data to be meh. It's alright. But if you're on the phone and talking to somebody, it's better than nothing. What's pretty cool about it is, let's say I'm on the property and I go into it, I just click the address, there's a CRM on the back end here. So imagine if you never had to take a title farm and import it anywhere. For $100 a month, you have a CRM that you could manage all of your database through, if you wanted to. If you're already investing in Prospect now, it's worth thinking about because it cuts all the steps, and this updates as title updates, so you never have to update your database. It does it itself. You can put notes, you can create groups, add a pipeline, add a task, schedule an appointment. If they own more than one property, it'll show up here, and you can just scan through all their properties at once while you're talking with them, which I think is really cool. Tells you about the owner, the owner's company, any LLCs, the map, and some photos are all right here. It's pretty much.
Are you using their CRM?
I don't use the CRM function of it, but if I wasn't on a team, I would all day long. If I was a single agent, I would use the CRM all day because they also have like a cell phone feature. I like that I don't have to import anything. that it's just here already. I don't have to create the database. The database exists. I just get to function within it. So for me, time management wise, that's a big win. So this is the tool that I use to create databases, or create a farm and get clarity on it. Now, the next part is, we know what our big number is 7,274, right?
Yeah.
Now we gotta like chunk it down into 8 manageable groups. So how do we do it? There's a couple of ways you can go about it. You can do it by location, you could do it by property size. If you had a couple of zip codes, you could do it by zip code. You gotta pick what works for your farm, but you pick something sensible that makes a logical case for why you chunk it down. Tanaz, are you gonna door knock through this farm?
Yeah, I have started doing it. Yeah.
So you might want to break it down based on geography, right? Like this piece, I'm going to make one group because I could door knock all that in one week, and this one I'll make a piece because I could door knock all that in 1 week, and this one, right? That makes sense? Yeah. So if you were to do that, the way you can do it on here is really cool. You have your like core group, and if you want to narrow it down more, if I scroll on the map, it doesn't like it. You could say, okay, I'm going to draw a polygon on here, and I just want to look at like this little pocket and say, if I were to knock this little pocket here, how many homes would that be? Could I realistically knock it in a week? Search, sorry. And if I did, is it about an 8 of my group? Because your average week is going to need to be around 780, so that's not enough properties, right? You'll need a bigger group than that. But you could create like, this will be week 1 and just chunk it out and draw it out.
I see.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
So where do you think, Tanaz, we should draw to get to about, I mean, you need a little under 1,000 homes to equal a week. Could you door knock 1,000 homes in a week? Or 900 homes in a week?
900 in a week. Yeah.
Could you do half of that in a week if you dragged it out? It is a lot.
That's
If
a
you
lot.
dragged it out over like 2 rounds of going through the 8 week.
But people are not home.
Yeah.
So it goes
Still
really,
traveling.
really fast.
You're still walking it though.
Yeah.
Let me see. Let me clear this one. Clear drawing. Okay. So if I said, let's maybe look like this whole section, would that feel reasonable to door knock in a week?
Yes.
Because you can take a couple streets at a time.
And I've been leaving flyers behind, but someone just told me not to do it because it's illegal.
It's illegal to leave a flyer. Are you putting them in mailboxes?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, don't put it in
It's
mailboxes.
not illegal to leave a flyer, it's illegal to put anything in a mailbox.
Mailbox?
Yeah.
It's a federal offense.
Okay. I didn't know that.
You can put it under their door.
I have
On
been
their
doing
door, like, yeah.
Tape it to
Car
their-
doors.
that. Oh yeah.
If they have a car parked in the driveway and they didn't answer the door, I'd leave one on the car door.
Really?
Yeah, why not?
I leave
So
it on the front
702.
doorstep.
So we won't go through all 8 groups, but this is essentially what you would do. You would geographically look at it and say, okay, I would door knock this in 1 week. And then those are the homes you door knock. And then, okay, I would do this chunk over here another week, and then those would be your second group. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you just create groups. What's really, really, really cool about Prospect Now, I can just say, okay, I'm gonna save that search, and I'm gonna call this Tanaz Week 1. Save. Done. So now, I'm just going to property search. This is where if you wanted to look up a single property, if you had an address and you wanted to go like MacGyvering to figure out who owns it, you could just type in the address. It's really cool. So now I can come here and I could just click on Tanaz Week 1 and it's going to pull up all the properties in that group. What if every Monday you knew, today I'm working Week 1. Next Monday I work Week 2. You just open this list and your job this week is to go through, call, mail, chat, door knock, and focus on the 702 properties in this list. Does your week get really easy then?
Yes.
Super simple. So that's how I figure out the groups. If you're, geographically breaking it down, the goal would be that of these 8 groups, they have a couple things. They are like kind. By default, they're all residential properties in the same neighborhood, in a same little like pocket of it. In your neighborhood are there what's like micro neighborhoods, like little different names of them. So you might break them down by that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something that like the comps would match up. So if I pulled comparables on a Friday afternoon for this group of properties, I knew no matter who I talked to next week, I had the right comps in front of me. Would that be helpful? If I was on the phone and someone said, come to my house right now, I could already have a CMA that was generic enough for everyone in that group to just print out and go to their house with a pretty dialed in presentation. Things get really simple. My team and I, we aim to each get 2 proposals every week, but we do it through the system because on Fridays we pull our comps. So we know when we get on the phone on Monday, if someone's like, yeah, I would be interested in valuation. Great, I can do that today. I can come show up with that today for you. Because we already pulled our comp data and we're already studied and brushed up on what our rental rates or our sale rates for the market would be. That make sense?
Yes.
So they're like kind, the comps match. For this, I would say it's door knockable. Can you door knock it all in a week? And then the last piece I would say you really want is the average group size is the same. Doesn't have to be identical, but we want them about the same so that week to week you're not overloading yourself one week and then have nothing to do the next week. Because that makes your business systemized and easy to do. That make sense?
Yeah.
Any questions around that? If you build it once, I built mine almost 7, 8 years ago now, and I haven't had to touch it.
Yeah.
It just takes care of itself. So once you have this, I'm gonna show you the next part that's really cool. Any questions about Prospect now before we go to the next part?
No.
This is
Can you
super
print those
user-friendly.
out?
Here's what's even cooler, ready? You can export, you can print. I could get mail labels directly from here. So let's say I'm in that group, right? I can send mail. I could prepare a template letter. It will prepare their contact information, drop their name into it, and prep all the letters for me and print them out. I could print envelopes through here. I could, select a few letters. Okay, I'll select all this page.
When you say you haven't had to touch it, does
I
the
haven't had to
program-
redesign my 8 weeks.
So does do you break it down within that program? Your 8
Within my
groups?
CRM it is. So in my
Uh-huh.
CRM, everything's identified week 1 through 8.
Oh, okay.
And I just know, even on my calendar, I
Of
have
your,
week 1, 2, 3,
to-do
4, 5, 6,
stuff.
7, 8.
Like
Mhm.
your tasks or whatever.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And they just follow up. I don't have to leave alarms to follow up with anybody who's like, well, call me in a few weeks. Because organically, I'm going to call them again in a few weeks.
Uh-huh.
So that gets rid of the bells and
And
ringers
then
and
you
alarms.
just
that
maybe
get
put
overwhelming.
notes in there they asked me to call.
Yeah, they said call them in a few weeks, they have a vacancy coming up, or they were taking a trip to France. So then when I call them back and I'm like, hey, Harvey, last time we talked you were going to France.
Right.
How was that trip? And it just makes it where I'm
More
very
personal,
familiar,
yeah.
top of mind. It's not a cold call any longer. It
Yeah,
takes about a full year of working your database in this style for the cold calls to go away and you to start to be that known entity that when you come back around. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So you could do the letters, you could put a template letter in here. I'm not using mine for that, but you can do it. I've used it in the past for that and it's pretty cool. And then we'll just PDF out all the letters for everyone that you selected you want to send one to. Would your 10-4 get really easy if you could do letters this simply?
Yeah.
Really simple, right? And then you could do a postcard. You can download envelopes. That I think is really cool in here actually. So if I had some of the slides in, I hit send mail. You can download envelopes, download labels, or download it to CSV. Meaning it'll give you the export of all the addresses so you could mail merge it through Word or something like that if you wanted to, but theirs is so simple to use.
Yeah.
Why would you? You know?
Yeah.
You can also batch pull phone numbers. So instead of going one by one and clicking get phone number, you can ask it to get the phone numbers for a big group at once. With a membership, I think you get 700 credits a month, so you can get 700 phone numbers every month. It won't charge you for one they can't find a phone number for. Get phones, you can get email addresses as well. I don't have that feature on mine because ours is, mine's through KW Commercial, so it's a discounted rate with discounted features, but with the $95 a month rate that you get it with, you can get email addresses. You can connect with CoreFact or create a digital campaign with social media and your website through here too. What I like about it though is it's got your lending history, your foreclosure history, the property, and the owner information all in one nice tidy spot. And you don't have to update anything. You don't have to correct anything. It's all public data feed. It's always in here, always right. And I really like that. I think it removes a big administrative step. So if you're like a solo agent without like heavy administrative resources, this can essentially be your leverage point for your database management. And $100 a month is a lot cheaper than a part-time or full-time assistant or even a virtual assistant to do that kind of work, you know? So that's what that looks like. So once you have the groups created, even if you're not going to use Prospect now, I would encourage like hop on their 3-day free version and just play with your farm, play with the numbers, sorry for the bright lights all of a sudden, to get an idea of what these groups should look like.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yes.
So in Venice I have 2,781 properties. Like my average week size is 380. Some of my weeks are 320, some of them are 405, but like I know every week I've got about that many properties to get through.
And
You
those
could
are,
have a big business with that size database too.
those are mostly like income properties?
Yeah, all commercial properties, yeah. But with residential, you could decide like how big of a farm do you want? How many properties should it have? There's different methodologies. I've heard people say you need a 300 home database that you work really well. You could do that here. You could break those up into 8 groups or even 3 groups that like every week you're gonna hit 100, right? Can we all look and talk to 100 owners each week?
Yeah.
Touch those homes? So I keep saying touch the property because I think of this almost like a stock room. I don't think of it as the people necessarily, at least not from the database side of things. Once I'm connecting, the people matter very much. But from a systems side, I think of it as when I come in, if I have 700 properties in this group, my job this week is to make sure I touch, at least for a second, every single one of those properties. So I at least open it up in the database, try to connect with the owner via call, email, text, or door knocking. And as long as I've made my attempt through all of my marketing arms to get in touch with that property and that owner, and I do that with all the properties in that group that week, I've done my job. It's easy to know what your job is. Because if it's just in service to your farm, that's pretty simple to knock out. Make sense?
Yeah.
Alright, so then, here's where it gets really cool. You can systemize your time, your marketing, your research, and your resources all around your groups. So I'll start with my time. If I know, this marker is not gonna ride or die with me. If I know that next week I'm calling all of the properties in group 1, that gives me the ability to decide what am I gonna do this week to prepare for group 1. Is that true?
Yes.
So I could say if I know Monday I have to call group 1, that would mean I know that on Friday, when I have some downtime Friday afternoon because it gets kind of quiet, like I could study my comps for next week. Could I time block that?
Yes.
And then when I get on the phones Monday or over the weekend if I'm doing open houses, I would know that market really well. I could prep generic CMA on a Friday and have that ready. Would it be relevant, up-to-date, current data? And could I control how and when I need to do it in my business? It takes me 30 minutes on a Friday because it's already done. And I'm not customizing it for someone's specific home. It's just one so that if I need one on the fly, I can pull it really quickly. I can absolutely time block when I'm going to door knock, when I'm going to call. I could pull phone numbers so that I'm ready, and email addresses, right? So that I'm ready on Monday to call and email all of these people. I could hit that button in Prospect now or do the research on Friday or over the weekend that I need to do it. So my time gets really manageable. You can always plan ahead. So here's what's even cooler. I like systems that if I leverage up in my business and I want to bring someone else in to help me, that I don't have to break to have someone else take on. So if I'm going in a system and I know this is what I'm doing for the next 8 weeks, and the 8 weeks after that I'm doing this again, I could teach someone this system once, and then just tell them every Friday, your role is to make sure I'm prepped so that when I come in on Monday, I'm ready to call the group that I'm on. There's no reinvention of the wheel. It's really rinse and repeat. Their job gets easier, your job is easier, and as long as you're wearing that hat in your business, your job is really easy. It's just preparing in advance what your lead generation would look like. So then would your lead gen be more effective? Super, right? Because I would know who I'm going to door knock so I could design the flyer or pull the materials that I wanted to take door knocking. I could craft a generic letter that was going to be the letter I sent out to people next week. And I could print it out even so that all I had to do was sign it in a different color ink so it felt like it was customized note to them. So like my generic letters are printed out, but I write like, hey, and then their name in a bright red pen on top, and I sign it in red, so that it at least is like connected to them. Make sense? So that's what that looks like. Time management pretty easy then. And then the rest of your week you're just inserts to it because you're gonna time block when you're doing everything. So then the next part would be your research. We kind of already tapped on it. But when you're on the research, you could make sure that you had composite matched. You could make sure that you had phone numbers and email. Could you do it in advance if you knew who you were calling next?
Yes.
Phone, email, comps. Could you research open houses that might be good ones for you to ask for if you knew? Like if I knew in 2 weeks I'm calling this group, so when I'm on week 1, I'm going to call the listings in week 3 and ask for that open house in 2 weeks or in 1 week. Like you could call a week ahead. You could systemize how you ask for open houses. What else could you do in advance if you knew what was coming? You could pull for sale by owners and call them in advance. You could pull expireds a week ahead.
How do
Because
you pull
expireds
that?
get like through the MLS. For expireds. For sale by owner, you can find on Zillow, Craigslist. Just Google for sale by owner properties in
Okay.
90064.
But if I want to look for them on MLS, how can I search that?
For expireds, so
No, for sale by owner.
those probably won't be in the MLS.
Okay.
Yeah. The only ones that might be of this, it's for sale by owner and the owner happens to be an agent. So you could do your research in advance. The third piece is that you can think ahead in your time, your research, and then your marketing. The marketing I'm going to show you a little bit differently. Bear with me, the systems part of this gets a little kooky to look at flat, but it'll make sense as we go through it, okay? It's going to look a little bit like a bingo board for a second. Where's the middle? It's right there, right? That's the free space. Okay, so I know we'll make this one calls, door knock, email, notes, and then you could even do like a newsletter that's separate, right? Like this is your, Sarah, I know you do one, like an email newsletter, but this could be personalized emails, right? Check this out, you guys. Okay, so let's say that, what do you guys want to do first? What's the first touch we want to give people out of these groups?
Get them to know me.
Okay, so do you want to do that with a call, a door knock, a personal email, note, or a newsletter? Say probably call or door knock, right?
Yeah.
Which one?
Door knock.
Door knock? Okay, so we're gonna go, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. After you door knock, what's the next step you want to take to try to reach them?
Email.
Email or call? Which one do you think? Personal email or call? You probably can find a phone number easier than you can find an email address. You could even switch this out for social media. So social media or email. Doesn't really matter. You could figure out what like was gonna be your thing, but you could take time to do that, right? So which one do you want to do next? A call or social media and email?
Call.
Call? Okay. So if this is 1, 6, 7, this would be 8. Alright, what would you do next?
What is
So whoever's in group 1, I'm going to door knock everyone in week 1 this week. Next week, I'm going to call everyone in week 1 and door knock everyone in week 2.
Say it one more time.
So this week, I'm going to call everybody in week 1.
Okay.
What
Next
happens
week,
if-
I'm sorry, door knock everyone in
Door
week
knock.
1. Next week, I'm going to call everyone in week 1, and my door knocking is going to be my week 2 group. So what's the next touch we want to give them? Those two are probably the most time consuming as well, right? Yeah.
Social.
Social media might be third.
So when you say social media, I mean like personally contacting them on?
Yeah, like friend
Oh,
requesting them,
I see.
connecting with them,
Newspaper?
or maybe email after that, or what, newsletter, email newsletter.
Yeah, because it's always
Because you might have some email addresses by then, right?
Yeah.
1. This one gets 1, 2, 3, 4. I have too few buckets on here. 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, I was wondering what happened.
I have 2 columns missing over here.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I see.
It's essentially a waterfall effect.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to door knock my group 1 here. The week after that, I'm going to call group 1. The week after that, I'm going to send week 1 my newsletter. What are we going to do next with week 1?
Do you have time to do all of these?
Most
You're
of
the one
this
that
is
wanted to do
super,
1,000 houses a
super
week.
systemized. Super systemized. Keep in mind, my average group size is 350. Like right around there, right? That's different than 1,000. So you might want to look at this differently. You might want to only do 3 layers of this instead of so many, but you can put as many marketing tiers as you want. But check this out. By spacing it out, I am methodically saying, I know this week, let's say my average group is 500, right? Which I think would be a super manageable group, by the way. I know this week I'm going to door knock those 500 homes. And next week, everyone who I didn't have like a super hot lead created with, I'm going to call all of them. And then everyone between 1 and 2 that I've created like enough relationship I have an email address for, they're going to get a templated email newsletter. Guess what happens with that newsletter? Once I build it once, it's done for the next 8 weeks.
Yeah.
I build 6 newsletters a year and I'm finished. Ta-da! And they're pretty similar. It's just updating the comps.
And so do you schedule them? You schedule stuff on that program?
Yeah, I do it in MailChimp. Kat, if I'm honest, does it now. She'll build it out. It's the same template that goes all the time. Guess what happens on Friday? She takes the comps that I pulled and it goes into the one for the group that's getting the emails the next week.
But so you compose it in MailChimp and then you move it into Prospect Now, or do you?
I don't do mine through Prospect Now, but you could.
You okay.
You
Because
could.
yeah, I have to, it's kind of complicated for mine, but yeah, to transfer it, you have to get into code.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
am not that tech person.
Yeah.
So I don't have that data coming back in my database.
so
It would be
you just-
amazing, but
So you just mail it out through MailChimp?
and in my MailChimp, I have my groups, week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So everything speaks uniformly across all of my marketing. My calls, door knocking, social media groups, handwritten notes in my newsletters would all be identified. Like in my business, my calls and my email marketing and then my notes are all systemized for weeks 1 through 8. So I'm always talking in terms of like, hey, I need to prep that newsletter for week 6.
Yeah, because I'm like, as I add people, and then it's like, okay, I keep creating these different groups, because I also, if I'm not, because some of the emails I want to reuse, like the new people, I want to send them older ones, and so then it starts getting complicated of like, who I've sent what.
And that's where like we get too customized with too big of a database, right? So if you can customize it so that they're like kind, their comps match, there's something in common with the other homes that they're with, they're gonna feel like you customized it for them. Make sense?
Yeah.
And then what you're talking about is what I think of as notes. So I have a few letters and I'm like, man, that was a great newsletter article I wrote, or a great introductory meet me note that I wrote.
Yeah.
Those become my note templates. I have 10 note templates and those are all I use in my business. If I don't like one of those notes, then I have to just make myself pick one of those and that's what they get. And it works really well. They're well written. If you wrote 10 really good notes and your whole business could be supported by it, would it be easier to pull trigger on writing 10 notes a day? Yeah. I have even a note for never call me again. I'm so sorry you never wanted to hear from me again. I was so excited to share with you a new business standard, which clearly you hopefully would be excited about because you haven't had a great business standard thus far from commercial real estate agents. In the future, when you have a real estate need, even though you're not ready to talk to me, I'm always ready to talk to you. Here's my contact information enclosed, and I'll be respectfully not reaching out to you again. And that's it. I get calls on those letters.
And then, but then
because they keep it in mind.
But then do they go into a don't contact anymore?
Not really. I never had that.
So you just
I just respect and I notate in my database that I sent them the letter that said I wasn't going to call anymore. But if I mail a postcard or I mail something in the mail, they still get that.
Right.
If I have something unique to them, I might send them an email. But I don't cold call them anymore because they've asked.
But they come out of your group, so then they come out of that.
They stay in the group so that they stay in my automated marketing pieces, but I have a note not to call.
I see.
Yeah.
So you don't say you won't contact them, you just say you won't call.
Yeah. All right. So then after let's say you did the newsletter, then it would be time for notes. So week 1, they're getting a door knock. Week 2, they get a call. Week 3, they get your newsletter. Week 4, they get a personal note. Does this kind of feel like the 8x8?
Yeah.
It was accidental. And then you would follow it up with social media on week 5. Boom. So it's just a waterfall effect, where you've like always got something going out to them. In a perfect world, you'd have 8 touches that just every week you've got something touching them, but you need a pretty small database for that to be physically possible. So just decide what are going to be your marketing platforms, which we talked about last week, right? Like how to identify and be specific and strategic with our marketing. And then how are you going to layer it with your database? A well-designed marketing and database like marriage is that they have to be able to automate one another. They have to be repeatable without massive action by you. Otherwise, it won't happen.
Yeah.
If your marketing efforts take crazy, massive input and action by you, you won't do them. Because there's just too much to do, right? But if we can systemize so that we know it would just routinely do its thing, and I mean, look, like all of our 8s follow each other. Oh, because we jumped. Our 7s follow each other. 6s. Like it just gets really easy. And then you could calendar it out. In the last week or 2 of December, I calendar out my marketing for the next year. I can write out like what are going to be the events I host for my company based on when am I calling which groups. And really get clarity on that. You could pick, let's say you're doing your farm, right, Tanas? You could say, I'm going to do 4 quarterly events. I want to do 1 for these 2, 1 for these 2, 1 for these 2, 1 for these 2. And then you could decide, okay, I know when their events are, so in these months I'm going to make sure that my newsletter and my letters and my social media, my door knocking flyer, you could design it all in December. And be done for the year. So then all you have to do is open up and use what you built for the whole year. You don't have to necessarily do that all yourself. You could if you're good at that stuff, right? You could hire someone for 2 weeks to build out a year worth of marketing campaign for you. Lead with revenue, so don't do that first. Go get a sale or 2. And then that's like the next level, right? That you could design out exactly what you're going to do and know January 1 what your marketing for the year looks like, how you're going to execute on it, how you fit it in your time, and how you support it. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right, so who's doing farms in here? So let's talk about your
I'm
specific
starting.
marketing.
I mean, yeah.
I have to reduce the size of my farm.
It's pretty big.
Yeah.
It's pretty big. I mean,
And you know, the title person sent me a list of 7,000 people, and they were all mixed up. I have printed out some papers, and I have to go to that neighborhood, then go back to the other neighborhood. They are not.
so that's where the farm sheets to me get kind of crazy. Because then you also have to like research them and then break them up and create things, and you got to import them somewhere. Like, I would say it's worth the like $100 or $200 you might spend in export credits and a month membership with Prospect Now to build it all there and export your clean groups with numbers and phone numbers and email addresses as much as possible. And that's a lot less headache, and it's clean, and then you can take that clean CSV and put it into whatever your database is going to be. Probably a smart couple $100.
Yeah.
Those Excel sheets, man, people waste lives trapped in those things. Those Excel farms, I'm a super systems person, and I get lost in them. So they can be rough. So I want to take someone's farm. So it's not perfect farm size. What would it be?
Like perfect size, you said?
Yeah. Like, what do you think is the average number of homes you want to touch every week?
500.
500. Okay. So now you have a way to decide how are you going to chunk down
Yeah.
this. 8 times 5, 4,000. Right? So if you got 4,000, then you need 500 per homes per week. Super manageable, and you could probably support 3 or 4 marketing tiers with that many homes.
Yeah.
Do you think you do that?
Yeah.
So what would your 4 tiers be? We're going to draw it out right this time, so that way we can see all 8 weeks. What's your first line of defense for marketing going to be? Now, is the first way to hear from you door knocking?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so door knock. You're going to go week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Make sense?
Yes.
Easy enough. Can you door knock 500 in a week?
Absolutely.
100 homes a day, or you do 4 days of 100. Yeah, super doable. Super doable. All right, what's the next way they're going to hear from you?
I like to call them.
Call?
Yeah.
Perfect. So while, check this. I'm going to insert research here. Because
Okay.
you already have phone numbers for all 4,000 people.
Yeah.
So you're going to research phone numbers the same weeks you're door knocking.
Okay.
Don't you have to pay to get phone numbers?
Not necessarily. You can do some Googling. There's resources out there where you can find free tools to find them. If you did Prospect Now, there's phone numbers in there, so you could pull them from there. But one of your tasks, the week that your door knocking group one, is to research phone numbers for just those 500 homes.
Okay.
You'll get some through door knocking and through being in the neighborhood, right? But the others you're gonna have to research for. Then would come the call. So you're not doing anything this week. Let's say you roll this out next week, right? You're not gonna do anything here, but you're gonna call. Then what would be the next touch?
Email.
Then you're gonna email.
So email, by email I mean it can be a newsletter.
Yeah, okay. So it's a group one.
Or no, I can do email. Just
You
say
could do
thank you.
either one.
Great meeting you.
Yeah, for the ones that you got email addresses, you totally could.
Yeah.
You would probably want to line that up either the same week you do calls or the week after. It would be a decision you need to make in your business for the sake of simplicity. Let's say you did it the week after because you're going to do a newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
Then it would just roll over one more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then you're back to 1. Here. 1, 2. Did I?
No, I did.
Oh.
No, you're fine.
I was like, I did?
No, when you said the 8,
That makes
you did it
sense.
the wrong way. I did totally backwards.
This is really easy to set up once. I'll rephrase this. This is simple to set up once. It's not easy. It takes planning ahead and not just saying, yeah, I'll get to it.
Exactly.
This isn't something that I woke up one day and magically put in my business. It took me 6 months of toiling around with my marketing and talking with consultants to figure out what do you do when you have a client? And it was all about this waterfall effect. And then I read Millionaire Real Estate Agent, saw the 8x8, and I was like, why would you only do that for your Mets if you could figure out a way to do it for everybody? You could figure out to have a really authentic way to be top of mind and easy to find for your whole farm. Why not? And so I wrote down my 8-week waterfall. I call that the waterfall in my business because we just follow it. And then it goes back to top, and then we follow it again, back to top. And every time it generates new leads. Every time. And I can tell what was most effective. So I can track my numbers. This is where number tracking is really important to knowing your lead numbers, right? I can track and see wow, when I door knocked, my numbers were awesome. When I called, my actual connections was really low. So I need more research. That's the gap. But if it's, I got a lot of people on the phone and nobody is receptive, what do I need? Scripts.
Mm-hmm.
I need a better conversation. But then if it's, I did my newsletter, this is where I hit heavy. I always get the best response from my newsletter. And so then I knew, okay, I am already getting a good response here. I'm gonna lean into that and make sure when I'm doing my calls and my door knocking, I'm gonna get people's email addresses because this is where I catch people the most. This is where they engage with me. So that it helped me design the scripts on my call and door knock or focus my research efforts I need to find people's email addresses. Because when I connect with them that way, it resonates. It helps build my business that way. Make sense?
Yeah.
It's persistence, consistence, and systems. That's gonna be what makes it work. One marketing push once a quarter, wasted your time. You need to do something that's routine. Start with just 2 of these. Start with just the door knock and the call. And then keep the research there, because if you don't have more numbers and more things in a farm, you're not gonna get very far. But start with just those 2, and then maybe after a full round through the 8 weeks, fold in the newsletter. Because you'll have some research in place, you'll feel your system a little bit, you'll have a routine. That makes sense?
Yes.
Is this helpful?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Any questions?
I have one quick question. There was, Jennifer was gonna stay for this class, but she decided to come tomorrow morning. So how are they gonna get this?
I'm video recording it right now.
Okay.
But I'm also doing, on the conference call tomorrow, I'll walk through this one.
Oh, okay, I just wanted to
It's
make
not
sure.
quite as visual, but the email newsletter, hi guys, the email newsletter that goes out tomorrow will have a video of this class.
Okay, good, cause I felt bad, cause I said, oh, she has the 9 o'clock call too, and yeah.
This is a hard one to do just through a call, but I
Oh,
can talk
sure.
through most of it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
I-
absolutely.
Cause I didn't want to have to explain. I
Yeah.
just I was so guilty. It's
I
like.
have one more question. What was the program again?
Prospectnow.
Prospectnow.com.
Mhm.
Can I sign up for 1 month only, or do I need to commit?
No, it's month by month.
Okay.
You can cancel at any time.
So you can do your research.
And then get rid of it.
And get rid of it.
exactly.
Yeah, it's a very manageable cost, which like to me, I watch, they don't market themselves as a residential company at all.
Yeah.
And I kind of don't want the whole world to know they are. I just want like you guys to get to
Okay.
know that,
Yeah.
right? So the numbers on the residential side are better than what they are on the commercial side. Because with a commercial property, they're pulling based on addresses. Tenants are at the address more than the owners at the address.
Right.
So like I'll end up with people who lived in the building 10 years ago, their phone number versus my owner's phone number. So it's not actually a good phone number resource for commercial, but for residential, I've had a couple agents try and they're like, yeah, like most of them were pretty spot on.
Yeah.
It's a good resource. You could use it for 30, 60, 90 days while you're building your core database. Export it all. They'll hit you with a fee to do that, but it's not wild.
Oh, okay,
It's
that
not-
was
you
gonna
buy
answer my
credits. I think you get 100 credits for $30.
Yeah.
So if your database is 4,000, you need 1 credit for every record you want to export. Over the 3 months, you could do 700 every month to pull those out, and then you only have to pay for the delta to get that out.
But I
Makes
can just
sense.
write them down, huh?
Or just write them down. Yeah, you can do that too.
Then take a screenshots. I've been doing a lot of.
4,000 is a lot to do, right?
Yeah. Let's do 2,000.
Because think about the manual work that you'll have to go in and like
Oh,
data
yeah.
entry that somewhere. If they'll give you the Excel sheet, it might be worth that small investment
Yeah.
to get like a clean, clear, scrubbed database. It's worth thinking about.
So you can print out an Excel sheet with all
You
the
can
numbers.
export an Excel sheet and then do whatever you want with
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
You can take that export and say, hey command, I need to format this to import it into command, and then drop it in command.
Can I
Aha! Aha! See where my head's going? And then they'll already have, like you could just create your 8 groups in command, plug in a few smart plans in there once those are ready, and your newsletter, you wouldn't even have to do anything with it. You just say, dear command, every 8 weeks I want you to send a newsletter to group 1. Dear command, every 8 weeks I want you to send a newsletter to group 2, group 3, group 4. Wouldn't that be pretty great? Yeah. Pretty great, right? You could do the same thing for your research, your calls, your door knocking. The one last piece that's great about these 8 groups with a farm is I can always tell you specifics on where I need more research in my database. So like my team this year, we've had every rotation through the 8 weeks, one thing we're focused on cleaning up in our research each week. Because you can't research everything all at once, it's just too much. But like we had our first round, we were like, we're focused on getting email addresses for anyone we don't have them. So we'll ask for them, we'll see what we can find, and then we're gonna like do some hunting to find email addresses and plug in what's missing. The second round was LLC research. Like if we don't have a name and contact for that, the second round we go through, we're cleaning up and finding everybody on LLCs and research. We're almost done with that second round. By the third round, we're gonna go through and clean up something else. And just tightening it up every time. With the 8 week, it's really cool because you can give yourself a goal like that. For the next 8 weeks, I'm just gonna focus on getting one phone number for every contact in my database. That could be your first rotation. Next time, I'm gonna focus on getting one email address or social media touch for everybody in my database. It's an 8 week goal. Can we commit for 8 weeks to a goal?
Yes.
Yeah, easy.
Can I ask you a question on a
Mhm.
specific? I'm working on my first listing client.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, I've architect I know who's doing a renovation for them recommended me, and they're getting ready to sell when they're done with the renovation. And I called them once. We had a good conversation. They're like in the midst of renovating, so they're kind of like.
Crazed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So then I said, okay, well, I'll call you next week. And then I called him. He's like, well, I'm with the plumber right now. So say, okay, great, you know, when you hear how it's going, I'll call you back. And then I call back, like left a message. So, you know, how do you kind of feel out that? I don't want to bug them, but, you know, I want to keep being there at the right time.
You want to be top of mind on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a couple of things. If it was me, I'll give you the 3 things I would do first. One, I would drive by and take a photo of myself in front of the property. Selfie, something that really shows your personality and makes you really likable, which is going to be easy for you, right? And then go to Ink, the app, and print up a postcard of you in front of that property where you type the little message, it'll send it to them directly through there. It's $1.99.
Nice.
Customized postcard. Guarantee if they're talking to another agent, that other agent isn't going to do that. So that'd be the first thing I did. I'd order them flowers. And like put a cute note about like Google something and find like a cute note about like sweet things to say to people who are almost done with a renovation.
Right.
And find like a cute little line to like put on the flowers. There's apps for that, like Bokes.com. You can get $25 to $30 bouquets really like pretty quickly. You can order it and they'll deliver it the same day or next day. The third I would do is go door knocking.
Do what?
They're in
Door
a
knocking.
they're in a condo. It's a condo.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
If calls not receptive, maybe connect with them on social media. Because you're very likable, and like your presence online shows that you have a lot of care. For them to see that, I think would be a helpful thing for you.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Or maybe text them and say like, hey, my newsletter's about to go out. I want to make sure you guys see it.
Okay.
And make sure they're on that.
I'm pretty sure I have their email address. Okay.
Make sure they know intentionally that you want that for them.
Yeah. Okay.
And speak to goals.
Right.
When I find people are like in crazy moments, whoever speaks most caringly about goals is normally who they're going to spend the most time with, because they're focused on their goals right now. And if you do that too versus your goal, they'll connect with you.
Okay.
Cool. Good job. Any other questions? Does this make sense?
Yes.
This is a little bit of my lizard brain. So if as you're building yours out, you're like, I have no idea what Alicia was talking about, but she said this, let me know and I'll help you. Because systems are like my sweet spot, and I'm happy to help you guys like get yours dialed in the way.
Should I set an appointment now? No, I'm just kidding.
You can.
No, I was totally kidding, but I was like, I'm just thinking it, yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have to sign up through KW or we can just log into?
So Prospect Now,
Yeah.
you can go get your own.
Okay.
Yeah. Through KW commercial, it's included in our memberships, but that's $125 a month, and you don't need all the other stuff that's in that. Whereas if you just go straight Prospect Now, you get 3 days for free. But I think it's like $95 a month.
Okay.
And I think you guys could share accounts too.
Yeah.
I don't think they police them so heavily that like you couldn't. My whole team's on my account, so I don't think they're policed so heavily that if you guys were like, let's split it, we'll both spend $50 a month or $45 a month,
Yeah.
and then let's keep it for 6 months and have more time to get our database dialed in, or 3 months and cut our costs in half. Then that would be something reasonable too. I've known a couple agents who've taken that approach with it, and I haven't heard anyone like raise a flag like they shut us out. We weren't supposed to share. So yeah. Awesome.
Very good. Thank you.
You got you
That's
guys.
where it seemed that, yeah.
Good.